works out of that into a lot of other things that we've been concerned with. Things that I see as all being interrelated, and also I tend to want to think more about art in a way that allows the art objects for myself to sort of expand, to allow me to think about other things and then sort of reverse it and bring it back down to thinking about the foundation of the objects, of the art objects themselves. So it's like this kind of strange sort of path, using the art as a way of thinking about philosophical issues. And in this particular case, which seems to me to have key roles in this. And one of the things I was noticing when I'm standing against these canvases, when anybody is standing against these canvases, they're peculiarly well defined. I mean, everything is so, and it's a very strange kind of situation when you're a painter painting chaos, essentially, or not chaos, but an overall format of this sort. Everything in your field of vision and outside of the canvas you turn away from as you look at a chair or you look at your paints or whatever must be peculiarly well defined. That you get in this kind of obsessive order, which has really, in a sense, no beginning and no end. One of the things I was talking to, I have notes here, 4 pages, which I'm going to have to refer to. One of the things I was talking to Nabil about, or that he was agreeing with when he read what I had written, was that the obsessiveness here, in a sense, is something that can't be contained. And there's for me a kind of repression going on. If you think of the situation, and I want to present it against the situation all the way through. There's a situation in Lebanon, or in Nicaragua, or in Vietnam, or any of these situations as being what Eminem Paul Brilio calls pure war. Then everything else becomes well defined against that. Pure war is a state where people do not exist as cannon fodder, which is the ordinary way of thinking of it in say World War I or World War II. But pure war is a state when the entire state is governed by mechanisms of war, whether it's actually a battle or not. So war becomes a kind of totalizing institution, as you might imagine it being in downtown Beirut, as you might imagine it being in Vietnam. But by proxy, really also talks about total war being the state that we're living in the United States. And in a way, this is a kind of war battlefield with the enormous amount of money going into armaments, into what he calls the colonization of our own minority groups, reducing them to the statistics of third world countries, so forth and so on. The pure war is becoming basically the state, the ultimate existence, the teleological endpoint of late capitalism or late Marxism, that the endpoint of all of this is a state of pure war. And it's not that people are cannon fodder. It's not like Graham sending people in Cold Harbor up with who are truly irrelevant to this. It's a kind of machinery of war that digests and pushes one through the associates, the life world. And in this kind of situation of pure war, the life world itself becomes very much like Blade Runners. If you've seen Blade Runner, it becomes very much like this kind of thing, a total insight to it. So there's a kind of obsessiveness in these paintings, which to me relates very much to this kind of pure war has no boundaries because it's what Goffman calls a total institution. It's a situation in which you do not see an endpoint to it. If you're in the middle of a battlefield, or in the middle of Beirut, or in any of these situations, your entire phenomenological horizon is governed from one end to the other by the state of violence. There is no out to it. There is not even peace at the other end, except the same way we might think of war as the ultimate endpoint. In the United States, we worry about nuclear war. You could almost see people in a state of pure war living in a situation where you're worrying about pure peace at the other end. It's either unimaginable or sort of a limit point to a kind of very violent horizon, but the horizon is the main thing. So a painting, to the extent that a painting is bounded, does two things, using Freud's terms. It represses and it sublimates. It represses because it has to place that state of pure war, that state of ultimate chaos or ultimate destruction into a format. And the format, I've always been real fascinated on Nabill's painting because the format is dependent on two things. One is an obvious bilateral symmetry in a lot of these. A very rough symmetry that almost seems haphazard in its placement, as if the canvas was moving across a violent scene and having to catch a position of symmetry, such as this one or that one. The symmetry usually seems based around the V shape, which I'll get to in a little bit because to me that has connotations of vaginality, vagina, something spewing forth, sort of a violent birth coming out of it. And the B part of it is usually a little bit recessive in these scenes, it seems to me. I may be wrong on this. I'm also partially colorblind, so it may not be there at all. But it seems to me to be a little bit recessive. The other characteristic is that the details, there is never sufficient detail in one of these paintings. The details start building up over and over and over again, obviously, until the form itself, you're not quite sure what you're looking at. Now, Peirce, I'm just trying to bring different things to bear on this. Peirce was a semiotician in the 19th century, divided semiotics into the study of sign systems into three basic kinds of signs. There was a symbol where one thing stands for another. There is an index where one thing points to another. And there is an icon where one thing represents itself. And it seems to me what's happening in Nabill's paintings, which is the way that I sort of thought about thinking about your painting, is that it's playing off of a combination of indexicality and iconography. Iconography in a sense that, iconography in Peirce means the opposite of what you ordinarily think of it, although the two are related. In other words, an iconic paint stroke is a paint stroke that stands for itself. So you look at a stroke like this stroke here, and this doesn't represent chaos. This is chaotic. This is chaotic on the canvas. Then you have you have indexical paint strokes, such as say this, which points to, it's not one that represents itself as a paint stroke, nor is it a symbol. It's not standing for something else, but it's an index. It's pointing to the existence of a rib cage occupying this particular space by a mode of semi-realist representation. So that you have these two things going on, which seems to me to make these canvases very disrupting and also